We had some inclusivity research earlier, and I'm just saying, like, this sign is like really too high. So I'll try to stand to the side over here. Hi, my name is Yvette. I'm going to be presenting on behalf of my team of undergrads. Peter, Scott, Masaho, and Pradnya. We're all at the New Jersey Institute of Technology, and I'd also like to acknowledge Mozilla and the NSF for funding part of this research. So here are my undergrads, like the ones who participate in the research are kind of circled on the right, and I really would like to thank them for their help in the data collection and some of the analysis. So what is patronage? Patronage, if you don't know already, is the action of a person or entity supporting, encouraging a person, institute, or work of art. And traditionally, wealthy people were the ones who were patrons. So a really good example is the Medici family, who sponsored music, like the invention of the piano. They sponsored science, philosophy, art, and architecture. So a lot of the really famous pieces of art we know today were all funded by private patrons. For example, the Mona Lisa. Or even if we think about today, a lot of the major art institutions, such as the Broad Museum, funded by Eli Broad and his massive wealth of artwork, as well as this is the Getty Museum, funded by the Getty family. And so patronage is nothing new. Wealthy people have always been supporters of whether it's scholarship or art or philosophy. But what is digital patronage? So here I argue or try to define digital patronage as people directly supporting content creators who are their own media entities through these new online financial systems. And so the way that we can think about this is thinking of services such as Twitch, Patreon, or even services like Venmo and PayPal that allow you to give money directly to somebody else. So how does this work in the context of supporting content creators? Well, in some sense, it's very similar to crowdfunding. So we have like Kickstarter or Indiegogo where people can contribute to a project, right? But I want to differentiate patronage from supporting from general crowdfunding because I think the important thing to note here is that it's recurring support. It's not just a one-time gift. And what we see is that people are forming communities around the creator and that it's person-based rather than project-based. So how does this apply in the context of streaming? How many of you know this person? Oh, wow, quite a lot. I guess because of the Galen conference, right? So here we have Ninja, who is a Fortnite player. And he used to be on Twitch, and now he's moved over to another live streaming platform called Mixer. And the really interesting thing about Ninja is that he made most of his money based on subscriptions. And the way the subscriptions work on Twitch is people are giving him money for content that is available for free. So anybody can watch Ninja online and not pay a single cent, yet people are willing to give him money on a monthly basis. And just from those subscriptions, making almost like $1 million a month. The interesting thing is that like I said, Ninja recently moved from Twitch to Mixer, and actually a lot of his supporters followed him there. And so here he's like tweeting out that, oh, today we hit 1 million subscribers on Mixer, thank you so much. So, I mean, he's an example of like a very, very successful case of patronage. But patronage doesn't necessarily happen for celebrities like Ninja. It could also be for very small streamers. So here is a streamer who's streaming right now for 13 people. And if you think about kind of how the economics works in the current environment where the internet is fueled through advertising revenue, this kind of person would never be able to make any money because with 13 viewers, you're not going to get any ad revenue. But through patronage, there might be 13 people who are willing to give him money on a monthly basis. So if you look at the ways in which you can currently support content creators on sites like Twitch, you can give direct donations, or you can have recurring monthly subscriptions, and that's what I'm going to focus on today. But then there are also other things like physical gifts or charity streams. And just a little pitch for charity streams, we also have a poster on charity streams today if you want to check that out later. So for very, very popular streamers, like advertisements actually still bring in a lot of money. There are various forms of advertisements, including advertisements that are shown before people can look at the stream, or product placement advertisements where they get sponsorships from certain companies. So for example, this woman has these sponsorships that she displays on her screen, and those are paid sponsorships. But in order to make money from advertisements, that means that you have to have a certain number of viewership, which is what the majority of people don't have. So just to give you a little bit of information about the subscription situation on Twitch, there are fixed tiers, which means that you only have 4 different options to in which you want to support somebody. So there's Twitch Prime, which is if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe to someone for free, and Amazon kind of eats that cost. Or for $5, $10, $25 a month, you can subscribe to someone. And these tiers have different perks. They give you access to potentially different content, access to social media, special emojis, or subscription badges. And these are all optional. So for example, this is Angry Pug. He's one of my favorite streamers because he's like screaming all the time, and I find that very entertaining. As you can see on the right side is people who are chatting while he is streaming, and some of them have this pug icon next to their name, and the different colors indicate how long that person has been subscribed. So even by looking at the chat alone, you can tell, oh, this person has been subscribed for 3 months, or oh, this person is like a brand new subscriber. And here's a bunch of emotes that if you subscribe to Angry Pug, you can use in your chat. And so I'm going to be talking about this a little bit later too, but some people subscribe just to get these special emotes. So this whole study was about understanding subscription behaviors based on a lot of structured observation, as well as a paper survey that we did at TwitchCon, which is a convention of Twitch streamers, as well as interviews with Twitch subscribers. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about the interviews. We had like 375 interviews that we conducted in paper, in person at TwitchCon. That was a lot of fun. And we asked people to think about somebody that they had subscribed to and then answer the questions based on that. We identified 6 different motivations, and some of them are pretty intuitive. Like some of them wanted to provide monetary support to the streamer. Some of them just enjoyed the content and felt like they wanted to pay for the content that they were looking at. But then there were also things like educational value, wanting to connect with the streamer, or wanting certain benefits. And the ones that I've highlighted in purple here, those are the factors that explain the higher tiers. So for example, for those of the people who paid more money, these 2 were the main reasons why people were paying more money. Then in some of the qualitative work, we looked at the difference between a donation and a subscription. So what's the difference between giving money once versus giving money several times on a recurring basis? And what was really interesting is that people had talked about return on investment, which we thought was really interesting. Like they thought of their recurring patronage as a form of investment, and that tied into loyalty and this idea that even if it's like the total of the same amount of money, if you're giving $10 a month regularly versus a one-time $120 donation, they felt like that time was a stronger indicator of support. And then they also wanted some recognition from the streamer. So compared to donations, we saw that subscribers had a little bit more vested personal interest in the streamer. We also looked at initial reasons versus continuation reasons. And kind of similar to the previous presentation, the continuation reasons were very all about community and relationships, loyalty, and were a little bit different from the initial reasons, which were more about the content. So finally, what does digital patronage enable? Creating relationships, so getting to know your patrons in a more systemic way. This is a streamer who streams games, but in between games, she has a lot of sessions where she's just talking with her viewers, and people really like that. Oops. And then finally, some thought nuggets on Twitch patronage. We found that patronage is definitely a mix of both emotional and tangible social support, and there are varying reasons why patrons support their content creators, and it's not always unconditional. So some people really wanted something in return. And in terms of that, virtual representations mean something. So like having an emoji, which we think is not such a big deal, people are actually willing to pay money for that. So I think that leads to a lot of interesting implications, especially in gaming, where we see a lot of people spending money on virtual gifts that have no kind of tangible value. Thank you.
No, fine. Okay, yeah, please go ahead. Oh, yeah, I have to share.
Hi, Jough from the University of York in the UK. Just a quick question, really, and I know it wasn't your focus, but do you think there are different motivations going on here than the non-gaming platforms, so things like Patreon?
So like yes and no. So we've started to look at some things on Patreon recently, which is why I could discuss that. But a lot of the perks seem to be more related on this Twitch platform. And I think one of it is that Twitch does a really good job of providing those digital incentives, whereas with Patreon, it was a little bit more about there's no way that they can visibly show their patronage. So the motivations are a little bit more intrinsic on Patreon.
Thanks very much.
Oh, hello, Adrian Schneider, Queen's University, Canada, again. I'm wondering why you chose to call it digital patronage, because it seems to me that there are other forms, like giving a commission to an artist to do a piece for you, can be done digitally, and that's very similar to traditional patronage. So isn't the defining feature of the kind of patronage you're talking about actually that it's distributed patronage rather than because it's digital?
That's right. So it's like the crowdfunding aspect of it is that it's not just like one person supporting another person, but like a large number of people supporting, providing a small amount of support to one person. Yes. Oh, sorry. So you're right, and I should have put that in the slide, is that a large number of people supporting one person is one of the main differences of the digital patronage.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. James, Facebook Gaming. One of the questions I have is, when people form relationships with streamers and they begin to recognize that value exchange between watching the streamer and wanting to be a patron, at what point do they begin to desire that recognition from being in the stream? And do they have a conception as to whether or not the streamer's attention can properly scale to not just them, but everyone in the audience?
Right. So I think that there's different types of people. Some people don't desire recognition at all, and some people are just really all about the recognition. So there are different types of patrons. I think that they know that there's more patrons than streamers, but at the same time, sometimes they get upset when they don't get recognition. And so it's a lot of emotional labor on the content creator's part to try to satisfy all of those people's needs. And so one of the kind of problems that we've had in the design suggestions of our paper is just like, from the content creator's perspective, being able to manage all those patrons and their attention is something that like is currently could use a lot of technical help with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you show your appreciation again?